Hey, what's up guys, Maltosier. We're back with some more Who is the Red Queen? And I'm going back to my original route. I'm just gonna ignore the fact that I went into another path and killed a bird for no reason. So let's go to the Hatter. I headed back to the Hatter's place. As before, I found her at a table full of tea stuffs. She nursed a cup of tea and waved at me upon spotting me. Just in time for tea, Alice. From the sky, tea time should have already passed. Perhaps this was more like supper time, so I only flashed her a smile without saying anything. I returned with a limb. Congratulations! I handed her the Red Queen's limb, which began to move upon entering the Hatter's hand. Holding it away from herself, the Hatter seemed to think of what to do with it next. She kicked the dog cage out from underneath the chair, clicking the metal hatch open, and she tossed the limb into it and quickly flicked the cage shut again. Sit down. I'd be a poor host if I didn't let you sit. I plopped down into the armchair. This was my chair now. I glanced around and found that I didn't see the two puppets that the Hatter wore on her hands the other day. Oh yeah, that's what's different. Where are your friends? I gestured with my hands. They've gone home for a bit. March lives all the way down over there in a house with ears. As for whose ears they are, I haven't a clue. Are you hungry for rodent, Alice? No. If you say so, Alice. She poured me a cup of tea and slid the tea cup and saucer over to me, nearly spilling it over into my lap. Soon after came another plate. On this plate was steak and vegetables. I should hope this isn't rodent, is it? It's something else. Is it human? Hatter didn't continue but glanced over at the Red Queen's flesh. My eyes followed the path of her gaze, not spotting any steak-sized slabs of meat sliced off from the torso of the Queen I saw. I let out a sigh. Taking a knife and fork, I cut the steak and moved it into piece into my mouth. It tastes like beef. Compliments to the chef. Why, thank you. We ate together. For a Hatter, her table manners with a fork and knives were impeccable, but each time I thought to compliment them, she went and said something odd again. The Hatter was a mystery to unravel. I don't have a place to stay for the night, so I wanted to ask if you would put up with me for the night. I put up with you all the time. What difference does night make? Where I come from, people sleep at night. Sleep? You can sleep underneath the table, or spread a blanket on the ground, or just sleep in that armchair you're sitting in now. Isn't sleep where you just pretend to be dead like everyone else? Is this why you don't sleep? The Hatter had terrible bags under her eyes. As I doubted she slept too much, she could have been sleeping too little. Look at the times. Is it really time to sleep? Napping at tea time will destroy your inner clock, don't you know? Morning, afternoon, evening, since it's all tea time, it's better not to sleep. I thought you didn't care about time. Time doesn't care about me. Are you perhaps afraid of losing sleep? Afraid of sleeping? What do you think, Alice? She poured herself a drink from the bottle into her teacup. I turned to look at the bottle, which was in no way for tea. I couldn't read the jumbled words scrawled across its label, so I couldn't help but ask, is that actually alcohol? Tea? Isn't it alcohol? Tea. She drank her tea and I did mine. The conversation turned to silence. I shouldn't have pushed and upset my dear host. I wanted to pet her head and apologize for she could drink or sleep as she wanted. As I reached out, the Hatter recoiled. Why do I want to pet people? She pushed her chair up from the table and taking the chance to move away, and she dipped underneath the tablecloth, rummaging through her stuff with a rustling noise. When she popped back out, she held a blanket, which she tossed my way. Didn't you want to pretend to be dead right now? Go play dead. Catching in my arms, I smelled a sweet scent from the soft blanket. The sky was dark. I started to feel sleepy, and hugging the blanket a little tighter. I had experienced a long day after all, so perhaps it was time to go to bed. Good night, Hatter. I wondered if she was mad. Well, she is the Mad Hatter. If she would respond, but she did. Good night, Alice. I leaned back comfortably in the chair and began to sinking. Contrary to my earlier expectations, I didn't keep sinking forever. The moment I looked up at the sky, I found I couldn't fall asleep anymore. I didn't recognize the stars, the constellations that adorned the dark heavens, tracing their infinite sparkles. I wonder who they stood for. I wanted to understand what was hidden past those mismatched eyes of the Hatter. While counting the stars, I eventually fell asleep. I dreamed of falling. The next day and the day after, I continued my search for the Red Queen's parts. Remembering the Cheshire Cat mentioned the White Queen, I decided to give the Queen a second visit. I thought I could easily replicate the route to her garden, having only recently been there. However, the more I walked, the more apparent it became that I was lost. I passed that tree to the right a handful of times already. I was going in circles, getting nowhere to that beautiful garden and its equally pretty owner. I let out a sigh and chose a bush at random to walk through instead of following a path. My cloak saved me from being scratched by the leaves. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, so I got a bonus limb by going this direction, so I was actually doing better going this way. Okay, this time, I'm not going to kill the bird. I'm not going to kill the bird, guys. I'm going to pet it, okay? I was like, this seems really familiar. Or maybe going one way makes you always go the other way afterwards, so it doesn't even matter. That's why I specifically said I got a limb instead of, oh, I got her arm. Okay, so I've seen all this shit. This time she's gonna go fail and I'm not gonna kill her. I'm not gonna just randomly kill the damn bird, okay? Pet the bird! Don't worry about it. I rubbed the little bird's head, causing it to peek up at me with his large round... Kill the bird option is so fucking random. Causing it to peek up at me with its large round eyes, glittering with surprise. After the failed first attempt at the key, I returned to the White Queen's side. She looked fitting in the cage, pretty, like a flower preserved forever in glass. Again, I thought that she was beautiful. Did I really say she fits in a cage? And she should just stay there because she's pretty? Really, she was beautiful. That's true, Alice. Did I just say that to myself? Alice literally said, that's true, Alice. Is that supposed to happen? Did I agree with myself? Alright, whatever. I guess I did. Even so, I couldn't let her stay trapped, not to mention the Red Queen's leg. I wasn't able to find a way up. Do you have any ideas of what I should do, White Queen? Over there are some mushrooms. If you eat one to the left, you will grow. If you eat the ones to the right, you will shrink. I think they will be helpful. Magic mushrooms? What is this, Mario? I was hesitant to eat mushrooms picked from an unknown wilderness, but I felt like I could trust the White Queen. Why? I didn't know. Well, this is Wonderland, isn't it? I'd forgotten something important. The feeling of forgetting tingled in the back of my mind whenever I saw the White Queen. Finding the mushrooms she pointed out, I faced a choice. Grow or shrink. Why is it not letting me save during these wonderful options? Oh, if I press escape, it still works. Found my way around. Alright. Let's shrink, because that seems like a stupid thing to do. I ate a right mushroom and immediately began to shrink. The world around me swelled in size. I was afraid I would shrink to nothing, but I soon stopped shrinking. I must have been the size of a doll. Looking upwards, I found the key was even further away. I hadn't quite thought my decision through. A gust of wind blew past. Another bird appeared towering over me. The bird who previously helped me also looked large, but this new arrival outsized my little friend. Hello, Chub. I heard you needed some help. I hadn't thought you were going to be this small, but whatever works. Never know with them humans around here. I paused for a moment, taking this new bird. I shouldn't have been surprised anymore when the bird spoke, so I decided to take it in stride and enjoy the offer of the aid we're given. I need to get the key up there. Well, that's probably a bit hard for you, ain't it, since you're so chirping tiny. You were nice to birdie over there, so I'll let you ride my back and we can go get that key of yours together, Chirp. How about that? Good. I climbed in the big dude, I'm doing some crazy combo of not killing a bird plus flying on his friend because he's not dead. I climbed onto the bird's back, admiring the look of its feathers up close. I made myself comfortable and grabbed onto its neck. Hold on tight, buddy. With a flap of its wings, the bird began to fly. Whoosh! The wind blew past me, throwing my hair into disarray. My cloak fluttered behind me wildly. In a few moments, we reached the key at the top of the tree. I grabbed it, placing my arms through the loop to hold it while riding the bird. The key was a silver thing almost as big as me. We descended and I dropped the key to the ground. Thank you for the assistance. Welcome, Jub. Don't expect a free ride again. I'm going to grab Birdie and go, so have fun with your own thing, little tiny human. The bird left with its smaller friend. So if I killed the bird and turned tiny, would that bird have just come and eaten me? I feel like I probably would have. I lugged the key over to where the White Queen sat, breathing heavily when I finally walked the full distance with the weight in my hands. The key I now had, but the cage I could not open. It was much too small. Magic will wear off. In the meanwhile, would you accompany me to chat? Why don't I just eat the other mushroom to go back to normal size? Is that not how it works? Can I not stack buffs? That may be for the best. I would have waited till I reverted back to my original size to open the door. I would have to. Is the invitation for tea sometime still soon? Still open? Yes, always. Then shall I ask about what sort of foods and tea you like to drink and see what I might expect? What's your favorite tea? White tea. Do you prefer black tea still? How did you know? We chatted for a while about tea, and at some point the conversation turned into flowers. Perhaps it was that she felt ambivalently on floral teas. You're welcome to visit the garden any time. I couldn't find the way to the garden today. Perhaps getting lost had been for the better as I found her in the end. Yes, it happens when I'm not there. But Wonderland should lead you my way if you think of me, at least for you, Alice. I've nowhere to be but the garden. She paused, looking at something in the distance that I could not see. Would you believe me that if I told you I could see the future? I looked her in the eyes and asked her to calm Surdy. Simply, I didn't feel like she would lie, yet I couldn't believe her words either. I wonder what I'd forgotten, what I was doubting. Rather than answer, I decided to play along. Can you change the future you see? Why do you ask? Otherwise, isn't it lonesome? I don't believe the future is predestined, but the solitude of such a power would be the fate of a queen in this world. Her words sounded contradictory. Even for the Red Queen? especially for the Red Queen. The White Queen spoke of fate as if it still trapped by something more than just this birdcage. It couldn't understand. We talked a little longer. I felt a tingling up my arms and began to revert to my usual size. The world warped and finally popped back into its proper place. I trolled around to check that all was well. Identifying no issues, I picked up the key and dropped to the ground at some point and inserted into the lock of the birdcage. With a smooth click, the cage opened and locked. I opened the door. The White Queen stumbled out of her birdcage, her legs still wobbly from sitting in the cage for so long. She let me hold her steady until she rebalanced herself. Thank you. You're welcome. I ought to return to the garden now, but my invitation is always open, Alice. I'll see you later if you're willing. She handed me the Red Queen's leg. Freed from the birdcage, the White Queen departed to return to her garden. After wandering around some more, I returned to the Hatter's place with the second limb in hand. The day came to an end, but the Hatter's clock remained at tea time. She was arguing with her own hand puppet about some sort of song, some rendition of Twinkle Twinkle. The hair on her hand was flung back and forth. I waited out seeing as she started laughing by herself halfway through. Apparently she couldn't sing. Once her shoulder stopped shaking, the Hatter turned to me. Alice, you voyeur. I see you brought a second one. That one is 1 and this one is 2. Good work. The Hatter clapped her wrists half a dozen times. Alice, won't you join us for tea again today? The Hatter made scones. It has butter. Thanks for the invitation, Dormouse. Upon my response to the Dormouse, she immediately brightened up. If it would make the Hatter happy, I didn't see why not just play along. Leg. Setting aside her puppet friends, she extended an open palm toward me. I proceeded to commit lèse majesté by tossing the limb over the Hatter's tea table to her. I took a seat in my armchair, seeing her clumsily catch it in her arms. At my seat, there was already a cup of tea prepared. With her free hand, the Hatter opened up the dog cage and retrieved the other limb. Do you need any help with that? I have everything under control. Without another pause, the Hatter stuck the limbs onto the Red Queen's torso. The flesh sounded with a squelch as the muscle, skin, and bone began to knit into place. Still a red line remained where the limbs connected. I took a bite of scone. As the Hatter said, it had butter. The Red Queen's incomplete body twitched, something squirming under the skin. I spread some clotted cream and jam into the scone. It was a perfect blend of sweetness, made me wonder where she got the jam. It was very red. Ow. The single arm grabbed at the Hatter, smacking it as it squirmed. The Hatter kicked the incomplete Red Queen, rendering the limbed hunk of meat paralyzed with shock. The Hatter forced his limbs off. This crazy-ass corpse, man! A bit of blood and something else dripped onto the ground. Gripping the writhing limbs in her hands, the Hatter popped open the dog cage door with her feet and chucked them in. With a thud, into the cage the arm and leg went. Good scones. Thank you. That's just so random. You mentioned that you also had some business with the Red Queen, Hatter, but what is it? Something to do with red, something to do with flash. I realized I didn't quite know. A personal matter, Alice. I'd prefer if you don't pry. I was the one gathering the pieces, so of course I wanted to know. Then again, the Hatter could just as well put the corpse together herself. A better question was how she obtained that first chunk of meat, but I doubted she would answer. I was curious after all. Not every Hatter keeps the Red Queen's dismembered body at their table, much less treats it like you do. The White Rabbit is searching for the Red Queen right now, you see, and the Red Queen is right here. At least part of her was. No one likes the White Rabbit. Why didn't you tell her, Alice? Well, I didn't feel like it. The White Rabbit was boring, and I had the feeling that telling her anything about the corpse sitting with us wouldn't help me much. You saved me from the dungeon. Also true. You saved me from the dungeon in that dark, dank, dude, place. Hat's not enough for the cold. Dungeons here aren't for keeping, but for killing. I see. Let's commit lèse majesté together. I don't know what that means. Surely the Red Queen will forgive us for piecing her together. I much prefer this, Mad Hatter. No, Alice. This is much closer to blasphemy. We have no choice but to beg the wrathful god for forgiveness, don't you know? I couldn't help but think of Osiris, the judge of the dead, cut to pieces by his own brother. Even a god king, rather a god queen, could be chopped up and rendered hopeless. The tutors would be proud of me for remembering. Is that so? It'd be good working with you, Hatter. I offered a hand to shake. Seeing her hesitation, I expected her to reject my outstretched hand, but she instead grabbed my finger with an expression filled with uncertainty. I thought that she would try to pull my finger off. However, she only gripped me weakly and shook it up and down before letting me go once more. She was a bit gloomier for the time after. Night fell and another day ended. What did I dream of? I must have forgotten. Only 2 more limbs and a head remained. I continued on my adventure to collect the Red Queen so that I could finally meet her and find a way back home. Step, step, step. I walked around this upside-down world. In between my explorations of Wonderland, I chatted with the Hatter, and she made a certain inquiry. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to go back to at home? What indeed? Alice, what was waiting for you at home? I counted off my fingers. 2 sisters, 2 cats, a large empty home, books, and tutors. With my sisters, Laurie and Etty, I was not particularly close. The older Lorna and the younger Edith. Intelligent Lorna and precocious Edith. They seemed to live in their own world apart from Alice. I preferred the cats, a white cat and a black cat. The former was cute and a beauty like the White Queen, and the latter a little devil. As for the books, our library seemed endless. We had so many books that I could drown. Maybe a pile had collapsed on me and I was dying, suffocating under the pages so terribly that I fell into Wonderland. The tutors would be so mad that the books were ruined. I winced at a phantom stinging in the back of my legs. The poor ruler. I could already see it go red. That was my world, a boring, normal, plain world where animals didn't talk and corpses didn't move. Where I hadn't needed to think of much at all. I was Alice, and that place was Alice's place. So yeah, I'm guessing like the cats and stuff were like the queens. I don't know a lot about Alice in Wonderland, but I do remember that the actual story of it is like super dark. Like, didn't like some girl like fall into a coma and start imagining this whole world that had like loose connections to things in real life? Something like that? I don't know. I was walking around searching for clues for where the next limbs or even head could be when I heard the sound of conversation. I followed the noise and found the oddest pair, a rabbit and a cat. Ask the Hatter. Hatter? That Mad Hatter? She's more cuckoo than the bird, a real nuisance. The only silver lining is that now that rat and hare are out of the way, she's become more of a recluse. My ears are ringing still from that time we had to pull peasants off the streets to sing for royal guests. The courts have stopped working, the kingdom's falling into anarchy. We've got filth on the ground left and right. Up and down, too. Shut up, you damn cat. You fucking criminal, just pretending to be a cat. If I weren't so busy, I'd send the guards to chain you up and throw you back into the dungeons where you belong. Hee, scary threats from a rabbit. I did not expect the fucking F-bomb, bro. What the hell's going on? Listen up. Your name is still on the top of the list for execution, cat. Don't you think you can do whatever you want? Ha! Now I've got to... Alice! The white rabbit made a puking noise. The blood drained from her face when she met my eyes. Hello. Did I interrupt our conversation? No, not at all. Hello, Alice. I hope we weren't too loud. The cat and I were just making some small talk. How have you been? Well enough, and you? Well enough as well. Well, what about me? Well, are you well? It depends. I'm Cat. What the fuck is this? What's happening? The cat's punchline. Oh, I'm not well, I'm Cat. Okay, dude. Are you two friends? No. Yes. Our circles rarely overlap. We only happen to meet and talk today by coincidence. I'm hurt, Bunny. I thought we were friends. The Cheshire Cat, please refrain from giving me unsolicited nicknames. Bunny? You two seem to get along. No, not really. They didn't seem to get along at all. I just liked how the white rabbit thought she could lie straight to my face about what they were talking about before. Lie. That was what the Queen's courtiers ought to do. Hilarious. After a short three-way chat, the white rabbit pulled me to the side for a private conversation. Ah, I have an invitation for you, Alice. The white rabbit reached into her coat, retrieving an envelope from the inner pocket. She held it out to me. The Duchess has invited you to her endless party. If you're interested in attending, it is and will always be held at her manor. I took the outstretched invitation. When is it? On and on indefinitely. Ever since Her Majesty has gone missing, the Duchess has been holed up in her manor holding a grand ball day and night. If I didn't know any better, I would think she was celebrating. But she wouldn't be so foolish. I see. Thank you for the invitation. Tracing an odd, familiar wax seal upon the envelope, I fiddled with the invitation in my hand. I wondered where I'd seen it before. I live to serve, Alice. What a relief. A burden has lifted off my shoulders now that this invitation is delivered. If it pleases you to attend, I hope you have an enjoyable time. The Duchess certainly knows how to throw parties. And the nobility of Wonderland how to party. The nobility of Wonderland know how to party, I'm assuming. I tucked the invitation away. Is there anything else? No, that is all. I won't bother you any further. Please excuse me, Alice, and have a nice day. Bowing her head a few times, she made her way away and soon was out of the sight. And off she goes. We were talking about something too. That white rabbit, she only cares about the Mad Queen. I've got a little secret about the Red Queen, just a bit of gossip. Do you want to hear? Certainly. I was a bit of a stump trying to find the rest of the Red Queen. The first 2 pieces came along quite easily, as it delivered on a silver platter, but now I had to find somewhat more clues. I waited for the cat to speak again, and glancing at her flickering tail, she gestured for me to come closer. When I moved in, she flicked me sharply in the forehead, causing me to recoil in surprise and stumble back. I never said I would say. Me! Try finding me later, Alice. Before I could respond to her provocation, she disappeared into thin air, leaving a grin floating before me for a short moment more. That is if you can. With a flicker, the grin too vanished. What did the rabbit call her again, Alice? I ran my fingers through my bangs and sighed. Looking around, I was alone in my search again. Party or Cheshire? I want to look for her. I couldn't leave the cat's matter alone. Thinking of her taunting flick, I had no idea where she could be, for she always appeared and disappeared as she pleased. I had a quick chat with Hatter to find out. Are you acquainted with the Cheshire cat? Cheshire? She's scary. Always stays up in the trees. She's usually around the northern end of the forest. The cat always says she has business, though she can't stay for tea. Even though I never invited her? Yes, we're acquaintances, but we're definitely not friends. If you're looking for that cat, don't bring her back here. We're low on seats as is. Next thing you know, you'll have to be chopped up to fit in the teapot. Ta-ta. The trio of one gave me a jaunty wave. Taking the Mad Hatter's words, I started off to explore the forest's north. I walked down many twists and turns, stumbling across uneven ground. The path was rougher here and the foliage thicker. I found not another living being in sight, no cats nor others. After a while, I reached a place with 2 signs pointing opposite directions. One read cliff and the other not a cliff. I let out a chuckle that there were straightforward enough signs, but I couldn't see where they led past bushes blocking beyond their arrows. Ding-ling! The ring of a small bell entered my ears, followed by the clatter of metal shackles. Cheshire cat? I received no response. Accompanying me here was only the breeze that would sometimes hit the leaves of the trees around me. I heard a soft rustling noise, but when I looked towards the sound, I saw nothing. I tilted my head to look further upward, and the world shifted. Sound battle impact. The air was pushed out my lungs. A black and orange blur crashed down on me with great momentum from the sky, slamming me to the ground. If my head had hit a different way, my skull would have been a cracked egg on the ground. I moved just in time to harshly bang my shoulder instead. I thought I'd get it done in one shot. The blur of the Cheshire cat filled my spinning field of view. She wrapped both hands around my neck, digging in with her sharp nails. Her left arm flickered in and out of existence as if it wasn't really there, creating an unbalanced pressure about my throat. Her grip tightened, drawing blood. I couldn't breathe. She squeezed even tighter. I tried to pry her fingers off with my own, with my twitching hands clawing at her constricting grip and even scratched my own neck. More than the pain of the flesh wounds, I was going lightheaded from the lack of air. I just barely forced her off my neck. I wheezed, coughing to catch my breath. She grabbed my collar, lifted on the grip on the left, flickering in and out, and she slammed me back to the ground after lifting me up a little. What? I couldn't even ask why she was doing this, its vertigo overwhelmed me. Kicking and flailing randomly, I managed to push her off for a moment. I had to reorient myself, get to my feet, and roll away from her somehow. Which way, cliff or not a cliff? Cliff. We go cliff. But hold on. I tumbled through the bushes in the direction labeled as a cliff. Signs around here had nonsense written on them many times more than not. As I expected, my chosen direction had no cliff in sight. I shakily got to my feet and watched the cat do so as well. She immediately lunged at me again. This time, I was more prepared. I kneed her in the stomach as she approached, grabbing her right shoulder and twisting while hooking my foot on hers. Forcing her arm down, I heard a slight cracking noise and made her fall to the ground with a thump. Just in case, I kicked her away a bit. Her body was light like a cat. I'm waiting for an explanation. She started to fade away, but I stepped on her before she could get away. After a quick struggle, she relented and got up to her feet without any further fading. The cat snarled, dusting off her body. I hadn't realized who you were before. My cloak may have a hood, but you've seen my face many times already, Cheshire cat. Wonderland twisted up in time. That sort of logic doesn't work here. It's mad, all mad. You might be Alice, but who is Alice? And that's the question we have to ask. To start with, you don't know anything. Do you even know who you are, Alice? I'm Alice, that is all. That was my sole certainty. Am I the Red Queen, bro? But who in the world is Alice? An outsider? A temporary visitor? I've just about figured out the most important part. Figured it out, I don't suppose you'll tell me. You are... She pressed her hands against her head. Kwahihi, somehow you're too much similar to the Mad Queen. You're much too similar to the Mad Queen. Oh, about that Mad Queen, you've been looking for her, but let me tell you this, she's been dead for a while now. Although I think you should already know. I can't put into words for some reason, but maybe it's the way you look at the world, but you're definitely the same type of person. In which way? Are you just trusting some gut feeling, some delusion that I might be the same as someone I've never met? Or as you say, someone who's long dead? This world can't afford another Red Queen, not even the chance of one. She vanished, taking the chance into our conversation. Criminals need to be locked up. I looked all around and heard hearing the faintest sound of her shackles telling me that she was nearby, but I could not see her actual presence. So why don't you do me a favor, Alice? Just go ahead and die. Her voice danced through the air formlessly. You have no qualification to enact your form of justice, cat. And that really is just like her to say. She appeared behind me and attacked again. We fell to the ground to tussle once more. She clawed me a few times, but I gradually gained the advantage. This is a description of a cat fight. Is that what's happening here? Okay. The cat favored her right arm rather than her left, acted transient, coming in and out of existence, forcing her to avoid relying on it. Her handicap forced her to falter no more than my now numb shoulder did me. She fought like an animal. To be fair, she was an animal. Biting, clawing, and all the legs, she came away with the intent to kill. We continued till we were both bloodied and bruised. I punched her straight in the face, causing her to seemingly bite her tongue and choke up a mouthful of red. Her head bounced on the ground, throwing her next moves into disarray. I hit the cat again and again. Doing this with my bare hands wasn't exhilarating as much as just a matter of fact. I decided that I'd prefer this nuisance out of my hair. I noticed that her right arm was stitched on. That arm felt familiar as if it didn't belong to the Cheshire Cat. Alice, that cat was also a thief. Tear it off. Yeah, fuck this guy. I'm tearing it off, bro. I grabbed hold of the Cheshire Cat's right arm and pulled. The cat screamed. The arm creaked. Be quiet for a bit, won't you? As I pulled, I heard a myriad of tearing and ripping noises, sounds that humans should not make. She screamed herself hoarse. Shaking under me, feeling her erratic gasp, I figured that she could barely breathe. Her eyes dilated, crying. From the gurgling I heard from her throat, I guess she must have been fully bitten through her tongue. I dug my finger into the arm even more harshly to wrench it out. Slowly but steadily. Maybe I should have asked, but I don't feel like she would have given it to me. I removed the arm from the cat through brute force. With the final squelch, the arm popped off from where it had been attached. The cat also stopped making noise around that time. Blood splattered all over me, dirtying my clothes and the limb I sought to retrieve. Really a little annoying. The red dripped all over the grass around us. I sat on her prone body for a moment to rest. Looking at my handiwork, I wondered if I had perhaps gone a little far. However, it was better to get the trouble out of the way. I wobbled to my feet. I kicked the body, ascertaining she was still unconscious. Unconscious? I think she's dead, bro. Holding the arm in one hand, I dragged the cat along the ground. I left two trails of red behind me, one from the cat and one from the recently detached limb. In the direction labeled not a cliff was a cliff. What a convenient garbage disposal spot. I hauled the cat's body as close to the cliff's edge as I could, and placing the arm to the ground to free up my hands, I lifted her and flung her off the cliff. An issue was disposed of. Now there was no more Cheshire Cat. Well, she tried to kill me, so I said fuck it. I picked up the severed right arm and the limb appeared different than when it was attached to the cat. The broken tackle about the wrist fell off without me having to do anything. Alice, did you recognize his arm? Yes, I answered. This was the Red Queen's arm. Jolt of pain burst through my head. I didn't know why I knew, and amidst my agony, I did not have the heart to care. I stumbled, clutching my head. The world warped and blurred around me. I felt dizzy looking at the disordered landscape, or perhaps my dizziness itself had disordered the landscape into an undulating thing that made me want to vomit. As my adrenaline drained, the results of the fight began to show themselves. My whole body felt sore. However, the raging headache pounding at my skull would not subside. Black and red began to fill my vision. Oh. The ground shifted beneath my feet. Maybe falling, Alice was falling. My world turned to darkness and all I heard was laughter. Thump. I slowly opened my bleary eyes to the sky. A terrible headache battered my skull. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. So disoriented I had no idea where I was. I patted around me and noticed I still had the limb I just retrieved with me. My head hurt. Hearing footsteps, I pushed myself up to a position and saw her. I can choose who I saw? What the fuck is happening, bro? Alright. There's a lot of options here, so it's really hard for me to think about how to redo my playthroughs. But I think I will be redoing my playthroughs, because I can already tell I'm kind of going through some weird shit with my playthrough right now. Alright, let's go. I kind of wanted to see the Hatter. Looking around, I found that I was at the Hatter's place. I started to talk only for my throat to feel like sandpaper. Each time I blinked, my eyelids grew heavy again. A chill ran through my whole body. Uncomfortable, that's all I could say I felt. Although I had experienced it quite a bit since coming to Wonderland, I had not thought I would catch a cold. Certainly that fight with the cat had battered me up. Don't speak, Alice, you're burning up, so no tea for you today. It must have still been tea time for me for it was always tea time. However, today the Hatter decided to put the tea aside even at tea time for the sick me. She brought me a cup of water to my lips, tilting it for me to drink. I drank and choked. Coughing and sputtering, I felt her wipe away the water that spilled. If you drink too quickly, you'll drown. She handed me the cup directly, fingers just barely avoiding mine, but also grasping the cup firmly till she knew I wouldn't drop it. Drink slowly, Alice. I've got to get something off of the stove. Thinking that I had the cup in hand, she hopped off into the direction of the stove. I thought back to when we first met. At that time, the thing on the stove had been a hammer. I'd hoped she'd bring back something more pleasant. I sipped from the water cup and waited and setting it aside once I finished. She returned with a bowl of porridge in hand. Sitting down next to me, she scooped up a spoonful of porridge and blew it lightly to cool it down. As the porridge temperature settled, she moved the spoon toward my mouth. I inadvertently opened my mouth like a little baby bird. I can eat myself. I would rather you not cannibalize yourself. She fed me porridge spoonful by spoonful. Once the porridge was finished, she put a bowl away and gave me another cup of water. While letting me sip the water, she wiped away the sweat on my forehead. You're good at taking care of people. Really? I've never quite had... My words drifted off inside as I thought back to what little I had to say about taking care of others and being taken care of. Hatter, the limb. I'll put it away for you. You know me so well, Hatter, and... I could barely keep my eyes open. Rest well. The Hatter placed a cool, trembling hand on my forehead. Into the realm of hypnos I fell. After a few days of good rest under the Hatter's care, I recovered to full health. I hadn't been so sick in years. Thank you, Hatter. But don't linger too long at this crowded place. Off you go. Don't you have some body parts left to find, Alice? So I do. Seeing me once more healthy, she shooed me away. So I could have chosen to drop into the White Queen instead. There's a lot of interesting choices in this game, huh? The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only her head and a fourth limb. Onward, I continued my search so that she could send me home. The fact they say fourth limb and like number the limbs makes me think there's a lot of different ways to get to the same endings too. And I really want to explore all the options after this. I took out the invitation that the White Rabbit had delivered to me. Running my fingers against the paper of the envelope and the imprint of the wax seal, some sort of animal, I tore the invitation open. Inside I found a card and read it to myself. Alice, the Duchess requests the honor of your presence at her ball. Today, tomorrow, time eternal. Yeah, look, it looks like I'm going to the party, even though I could have also. I'm guessing I would have killed this cat afterwards anyway. Today, tomorrow, time eternal. The Duchess' estate, the manor. You're required to bring a companion. Flipping the card over, I noticed something of a crudely drawn map. I followed the lines on the map and somehow pinpoint where I was in the relation of the manor. I held nothing to bring to a party, nor did I have a readily available guest. Oh, you know what? I just realized why that option for me just said Hatter instead of having White. Because if I went the other way, I would have gone back with the White Queen instead, right, of the Hatter, or I would have had the option for it. I feel like going back to the White Queen is like deciding to go back to the White Queen or the Hatter is probably what branches my paths and endings out. So I'm definitely gonna have to mess with that later. I pondered about whether I should go or not, seeing as I could put it off indefinitely. But with the Red Queen's part still missing, perhaps someone there would know. A duchess should have been close to the queen, for example. That, at least, the tutors had mentioned. As for my +1, my mind wandered to my few human acquaintances. Yeah, so look, another Hatter. So basically, I'm assuming the number of times I pick one or the other is going to influence my ending. At this point, I've been super committed to the Hatter, and I really like her, so I'm going to go back to her. I returned to the Hatter, who was having her usual tea time, and invited her. Hatter, won't you accompany me to a ball? I rather won't. Alice, did you have to request it that way? I'll trade you a favor for a favor. If you come to the ball with me, I can do something for you. Take some pity, Alice has no friends. No friends, no pets, no siblings, no one, none. Do favors have flavor like butter? I would say I have at least one of the above. What sort of favor would you offer me, Alice? A limb, a tongue, a heart? Alice, you don't have anything I want that I can't get myself. A cup off of your sandwich, Alice. Here's the salt. I passed her pepper as she slid the salt and cup of tea over to me. Filling with the salt container, I tasted a spoonful of humiliation atop my tongue. I have no friends. She says she has no friends. She really has no friends. You have no friends? What am I, March's favorite old butter sticks? Well, if you would. She says it. I would really rather not. A hatter doesn't matter around the nobles who just like to flatter. I'm no good with nobles after all, I'm just a hatter. For a second her voice dipped. Hatter is better off here all alone. I barely heard Hatter's low words, and it's also still tea time. How can we go off to a ball when we've yet to finish afternoon tea? She stirred her tea, watching as I slumped into my seat and played with the salt. But I'd rather appreciate you. My heart skipped a beat. Why? Alice, why did you just find that slight smile somewhat charming? Clink. The sound of my teaspoon hitting against the rim of my cup broke me out of my thoughts. I looked down. Putting the cup to my mouth, I took a sip of what and found that I had put salt in my tea. Terrible. I'll accompany you, Alice. When is this ball? Anytime. It's not very nice of you to say it's not tea time here, then. It's not very good of you to be biased against tea time, don't you know? We finished our tea and sandwiches, and after a few more sips, I sneakily dumped the salted tea behind my armchair. The Hatter put the Dormouse and March Hare away. After lingering at the tea table for a few moments longer, we got up to leave. She waved goodbye to the puppets and hesitant as if scared of leaving this place. Then we used the shouting map on the back of the invitation card to find our way to the Duchess's palace. After a walk, we arrived at the manor. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the episode here because obviously a lot of shit's going to happen here. I probably should have ended it a bit earlier, but I kind of got into it. We're going to the manor, the Duchess's party on the next episode. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a longer series, it seems. I didn't expect that, but here we go. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, please leave a like down below. It helps me a lot. I'm very curious to see what happens to all the endings. And those sound effects really got my arm hurting a little bit. Pulling off some cat's arm. Man, I was like, shit, dude. I'm sorry about all the graphic sounds. But hey, I could have asked, but I'd really like... Come on, guys. She was trying to kill me for whatever reason. I doubt she would have given that arm to me if I told her to ask for it, unless she got really desperate for her life or something. I don't know. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, please leave a like down below. It helps me a lot. Subscribe for more. And as always, if you guys, oh my god, dude, let me try this again. As always, I hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.